All right, so our goal for today is I am here with Lewis from ZezRetro, who's been doing a bunch of tests on MiSTer Composite and S-Video output. I as well have been testing it since it first kind of came out, and I want to get kind of a definitive snapshot of where we are with this project now in time in MiSTer. But it is important to note that this could all change tomorrow. This could all
Absolutely.
be completely out of date, which is one of the many reasons why I thought a live stream would be a little bit more conducive to this, because rather than spend 40 hours on a video that's completely useless in a month, hang out with Lewis for a bit and show you in real time how all this stuff is working. So I was just going to start with the Retro Castle case. Have you tested this one, Lewis?
No, I haven't. I've spoken a little bit to RetroCastle on Discord. He seems like a reasonable dude, but I haven't actually got the product myself.
Yeah. So what this is a case that has an I/O board with a Sega Saturn video output mini DIN. So it's kind of a pain in the ass if you want component video, but for composite video, it's in S-Video. All you would need are Saturn cables. So I figured I would start by pulling up like the Sega Genesis core and probably the 240p test suite I think would be the best. And we could take a couple of shots and just see the difference. And if my fat ass was in front of the camera, you could see in real time here as well. All right.
So what cable have you got plugged in there right now to the from the I/O board to the PVM?
RGB.
RGB. Okay.
So SMPTE color bars is probably going to be okay for this. Let me make sure this is totally in focus though. All right, I'm using Destiny let me borrow a Blackmagic 6K camera for some testing. So that's what I'm using as the camera, which is pretty awesome. I would love
this
to
is a
buy it
6K camera. This.
Yeah, I mean, it's only outputting in 1080p. It's actually two reasons why I can't keep it or buy it from her is because all of my workflow for the weeklies relies on me connecting to my Lumix GX5 and controlling that with my PC, and you can't do it with that one. You got to like buy upgrades or something. And also the max HDMI output is 1080p, which is perfect for this, but not for a lot of the other work that I do. So I'll be delivering this back pretty soon, hopefully with some Virtual Boy stuff and other crazy nerdiness.
Cool.
My mic needs turning up. All right.
Probably because you're getting far away. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So this is cool, and this is a nice use case of the RetroCastle product. That if you've already got a Sega Saturn cable, I already have one of those myself, then you'd be good to go straight out of the gate.
Yep. So here is what RGB looks like. Now, of course, you're going to be looking at it through internet compression and all this other stuff. But I'm also leaving this up here because I'm taking raw screenshots of these so we could have something to put a post together afterwards, which if anybody feels like writing a post about this, by all means. So I'm going to do Retro Castle RGB SCART. And let me just zoom in 1,000,000% to make sure there's no capture issues. When I was testing the AverMedia software, I found that their screenshots don't really compress anything. It's only that when you record. So it's essentially, it really is a lossless PNG. So
good.
All right. So let's switch to S-Video. And there is one bit of a caveat to this in that I don't have an excellent Sega Saturn S-Video cable. I have one that's perfectly meh, but that's it. And I'll see what other ones I have here, but I even reached out to Retro Access to see if they could make me a custom one, which I would pay for, of course, but they never got back to me, which is unfortunately typical. But
where did you get this average cable from? Do you remember?
I think Amazon or eBay or something.
Okay, all right. I think my one I got from the Foo. Or did I get my RGB cable from the Foo? I think... Do I even have a Saturn S-Video cable? Who knows? I definitely have the Saturn RGB that I got from the Foo, which I think is excellent. Okay.
Zez isn't sending double audio. There's a bit of an echo, which I can't do too much about unless I tried to put on wireless headset or something like that. So Sorry about that.
Hopefully... Oh, it's me going back into Bob's microphone, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it must be.
Okay. To the chat, is it too much? Am I even more annoying than usual?
Okay. So I just unplugged this. I'm going to connect S-Video to the PVM. And if I did everything right, everything is also being routed to the RetroTink 5X.
Okay.
And that's in, you know, I just realized I had the RetroTink 5X in generic mode, but that should have been in, the custom Genesis mode for this. So let me just do that screenshot again real quick.
All right, sure.
Hello? What the fuck happened?
What are you doing, Bob?
I have no idea. It's just not working. When in doubt, reboot. Alright, just unplug the monitor. Monitor back in. We'll see if this works. Okay, good. That was making me nervous.
Okay. So is it going out of the PVM into the RetroTink? How have you got that set up?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And all right, so we're output resolution of 1080p under, just to make sure it's an integer and to fit on the screen. And the H sampling is, there we go. Let me take another screenshot.
I should join.
All right, I'm zooming into these just to see if there was a difference. Yeah. Okay. So that was a good catch for that mistake. So, all right. So now
okay, we found it. Good.
Let's try switching over again without somehow screwing up the thing.
All right, we've got the RGB capture right now. We're attempting to get the S-Video capture. And we're keeping in mind that these are average cables that came from Ali or Amazon or something like this.
Okay, now I believe I have to switch these dip switches around in order to get S-Video working.
Oh, okay. So for people to understand who are on the chat, so the RetroCastle I/O board is an I/O board that was made updated by RetroCastle, and it outputs RGB like most do, but it also outputs S-Video and Composite as well. It is capable of that. And to enable all of this, rather than a VGA plug on the end or the VGA style plug, he's actually used just the Sega Saturn plug and the Sega Saturn pinout. So if you've got Sega Saturn RGB cable or an S-Video cable or composite cable, it will work on this device. Now that means that RetroCastle's had to do some fair amount of modifications to the I/O board design to enable this to work. So we've got S-Video here. Okay, cool.
Yep, so all it was I had to switch things around, switch the dip switches around, and for whatever reason, my PVM froze when I switched cables. I've never seen that before, so this will probably end up being a RetroTech rebuild special at some point. All right.
So you had to, Bob, to enable S-Video out of this I/O board, there was some dip switches you had to enable to tell it to output S-Video instead.
Yes. Although I can't quite figure out exactly which was which. So at the very least, I might have to set up a dip switch, but I was just pushing a bunch of buttons trying to make it work. The other thing too was trying to get the brightness right, which there's dips for that too, depending on what output you're using. So obviously we would have to switch the RetroTink's input to S-Video. Okay.
So we can already see a difference there. Just even on my screen, even my Skype screen to you, I can see lower quality than RGB.
Yeah, and let me flip these switches around.
So again, for everyone watching, the way that this I/O board revision is generating S-Video and Composite is it's doing it on the I/O board. RetroCastle has added that functionality to the I/O board, and so it seems that there's a couple of if you want to switch between those formats, there's maybe a switches or something like that.
Yeah, and when we switch around next, I'll hold up the case to it in order to show that. So that's S-Video output. Now, there's two things happening here. One of them is the fact that it's a terrible cable. You're going to notice a downward spike in quality, but on top of that, none of these cores are going to look just right because of the way the signal is generated. And I'll go over that for the next one in 1 second when I show that. But
sure, let's talk about that, and because that's such doc crawl and the combination of converting RGB to S-Video and Composite is such an interesting rabbit hole that I never imagined was so complicated. It's one of those things that I just thought, well, it's the high quality RGB. Of course, you can convert it to lower quality S-Video or lower quality Composite. And I just thought that was easy. But then I started to talk to people who know far more than me, and it's not as simple as that. It doesn't work just as easy as that. And there's quite a lot of things to look out for.
Okay, so now I'm switching over to composite video. And here's the cool thing about this. Okay. So what we have here looks like S-Video, but much shittier in the fact that you see the interference on the screen, and you see the shakiness, and you see like the weirdness going down the top. And this is a result of, I'm going to give the general answer and then a little more of the technical, but this is a result of how the exact signal in all of the parts around it are sent on your console to the chip that generates these different formats in order for it to look okay. And when you're using an external converter, because even though it's built into the case, it's still not built into the MiSTer cores, what it's taking is just doing a generic RGB to S-Video and Composite conversion. And if you're talking about something like VCRs or DVD players or something like that, you could probably get that pretty perfect because those all adhered to the same exact standard. Whereas when you're talking about video games, everyone was different. And not only was everyone different, a lot of them shouldn't have even really worked at all. And in fact, in the case of the Sega Genesis, if you had a Zenith TV in the late 80s, early 90s, it wouldn't work at all, and you'd have to have your Genesis sent back to Sega to have the Zenith mod installed to make it compatible. So the root of this is the pixel clock is one of the ways you can get around this by tying the pixel clock into the signal. And that's something that could theoretically be done in MiSTer and could theoretically be tied into any of these external boards, except not all cores generate standard NTSC or PAL timings. So if the team went through the trouble to add all of that, it wouldn't even work with every core. So what Ivory from RetroCastle came up with was a variable capacitor in the back of the case that allows you to tweak composite video. So I'm gonna do this now on stream to show everybody exactly what this is.
Right, so Bob's going to essentially dial in composite. And that's the solution that RetroCastle's come up with, that he has understood the technical limitation of converting RGB to S-Video and component externally. As Bob said, the I/O board is still technically external in this case. And yeah, what I thought was a pretty practical solution from RetroCastle. There are some variable pots that you can adjust to dial it in. The difficulty is you've got to dial it in for every core. Exactly. And when you change cores, you're going to have to one more time.
So what I'm doing for this, you would have to do every single time you switched cores. Although I did find that if you find like a happy medium, it will kind of stick.
So yeah, that makes sense. Like,
yeah, wildly different sometimes. So you could get lucky.
Yeah, that makes sense. There should be you should be able to find a pretty reasonable thing. Maybe you're going to have to adjust it for some of the cores like Genesis and 32X that are a bit crazier.
The other thing, too, that I think is worth noting is that I got the nomenclature wrong a bunch of times. This is a variable capacitor, and it's kind of like a clock in that when you keep spinning the dial, you're not tightening it. It's exactly like a clock in that once you get back to 12, you start back over again. So that makes it easier. You're not just sitting here spinning it, wondering if you're over tightening, over loosening. All you have to do is just keep spinning until you get something that looks good, and then I keep spinning an entire turn just to make sure there isn't anything too much better. So what I'm seeing with the Retro Castle case is perfectly meh composite video, which is a huge compliment because that's all you're going to get digitally with composite.
Right.
And S-Video still looks better, but it's you're getting the jail bars that you're going to get from the composite video interference, which is not Retro Castle's fault. It's the cable's fault. Luckily, though, the one other first reveal that I'm going to be doing today is going to be using the same cable, so there's no favoritism on anybody's side here. It's just my lack of ability to find a decent, not shitty S-Video cable for the Saturn. Which, by the way, does bring up the very important point of if people are going to make these things with Saturn mini DINs, everybody's going to run into the same problem I am. So trying to hunt down a good S-Video cable, which is why I really prefer they had like an external box that had all of these RCA connections and S-Video cables on it, so that way you could just buy a shielded S-Video cable.
Yeah, I think because you could. I mean, in theory, you could have. Retro Castle could have just kept the DB15, and you could have just used a VGA to BNC breakout or something like that. So it's fine. It's just a creator making a engineering choice along the way, and maybe. Well, yep, go ahead. So what do you got there?
Yep. No, I just the opposite. I should probably show it on the fancier camera if it'll. Nah, it's better over here. But yeah, so this is one of Antonio's other boards, original boards, and this has a Genesis DIN as well as an S-Video connector right on it, which I think is great because that solves this problem. Now, I do believe, have you tested these with direct video? Does this work with direct video?
No, I haven't done any S-Video testing whatsoever.
That's what we're going to do right now.
So wait, what is that? I've never, that adapter from Antonio, I've never seen that one before. What is that? Tell us more about this again.
Make sure it is from Antonio. Maybe it's not.
I thought that was the
MiSTer MD2.
Yeah, that's not Antonio's one. That's another separate project.
Okay then.
That again, I don't know anything who organized it. When I was looking at Antonio's adapter, like whenever it was a year ago when I made that other video, that was out of stock, so I wasn't able to get one of those. As I have understood, that should be about as good as Antonio's adapter or about as good as anyone's external RGB to S-Video converter is.
Okay. I mean, none of these are going to be perfect, and the Retro Castle one is going to take the cake for being the least worst because of that variable capacitor. But if you need S-Video, so that's another reason I wanted to do this, is if you just need S-Video, let's see what the differences are and pick which one, if any, are better. But if you really do need composite, let's just see what the differences are. So, all right, let me verify that I am setting these settings up correctly. And so composite sync equals 1, already out there, VGA2, direct video. Cool. VSync adjust.
On that MiSTer, Bob, are there any sort of pots or anything you can adjust on that device?
There is a switch, and that's it.
Okay, cool.
And there might be something that looks sort of adjustable in the middle, which I'll show that in a second. But let's make sure that we can even use this one first.
Sure. So I'm looking at the live chat as well, and Extras Anderson speaks that he tried to order one of those MiSTer devices, and that he never got his. That's also half the reason why I never ordered one. I heard some really bad feedback, so I'm glad that you were able to get one, Bob. And I think that the MiSTer people, because they were having a regular Genesis DIN, they were advertising that this can also be used with RF, because then you need the Genesis RF adapter, which I believe the RF adapter was just taking composite and then turning it into RF in that little box of it.
Yeah,
that's how
absolutely.
It's doing RF. Yeah.
You know, one live stream I got to do as well is somebody wanted to know, does going through a VCR to convert composite to RF add lag? And my first answer to that was, no, there's no way. And then I'm like, well, that'd be a fun live stream. So we should definitely do that.
Sure, I can't imagine that it's adding lag looking at that componentry and the stuff that it does, but maybe.
Yeah, not even a little, but it's worth trying.
Sure. There's a second person in the chat's popped up saying they didn't get their MiSTer either. So how did you get that one, Bob?
Honestly, man, that was well over a year ago. I've had that with me for such a long time, and that's just how long it's been because of everybody saying, hold off, we don't know what it's going to be like. You know, wait before doing a video on this so we could have it all worked out. So it's getting to the point where I have so many adapters in here, it's hard to find any one of them. But I'll get it.
He's getting there. He's getting there. So it's hard to say right now what's going to be the best option to get the RetroCastle I/O board, ups and downs to that, external adapters, ups and downs. So I know we're sort of inching our way towards Mike's adapter. Is this what I'm understanding, Bob?
That's what we're doing last.
Right, understood.
Do I have it here? I usually
Mike?
right, here we go. I usually have this next to my Time Sleuth, so I could use it for those situations. But I have this adapter here.
What's that adapter? What is that?
This is just an HDMI to VGA adapter.
Oh, okay. We're doing direct video now. Right.
Yep, but it's just a pigtail, so it works really well. And I'm also going to grab a Sega Genesis AV cable so that we can try that too.
Okay, yep. Right, because if I imagine that RetroCastle sort of made a call and decided to use the Sega Saturn DIN. Should it be the Genesis DIN? Should it be the Sega Saturn DIN? Should we standardize on something else? There's no kind of clear answers here. Could have just used a DB15 and then used VGA to B and C cables. That would get you, well, you'd have to combine S-Video into a plug true. It's not quite as easy. So, okay, it's like all engineering, it's all trade-offs.
All right, so now let's. I can't remember if I've ever even tried this before, so we shall see how this all works if it does.
Yeah, well, I guess we got to look up those. Don't we have to change some MiSTer I and I settings as well?
Already did that.
Oh, okay, good.
So we're not getting anything out of this, huh? That's interesting. All right, well, let me confirm that this is actually working. It's always a big help.
So now we've got direct video out, HDMI to VGA, then the then the VGA into the MiSTer.
Yeah, so what I want to switch over to now, just to verify that direct video is working, is just the VGA out into this HD15 to SCART adapter,
right,
into the PVM, just to confirm. Are we getting RGB at all?
Wait, okay.
Okay, and you know what? Let's just for shits and giggles, let's take a screenshot of direct video in this exact scenario.
Okay. Straight up, this is as good as it should get in this situation.
All right, test patterns. Am I standing in front of the goddamn camera again? I'm sorry.
Little bit. That elbow, Bob.
Yeah,
move your elbow. There you go.
Yeah, you know what? Even that 1 week I was thin, it's still that wide, so not much I can do about it. Alright, let me input RGB SCART. Just to confirm, we're still in the optimal sampling modes for Sega Genesis, and we're in the Genesis core.
Okay.
Bring that up.
So the output of direct video is RGBS, not RGBHV.
Yes. However, you still need a way to get that to a SCART adapter, which is why I really prefer the HD15 to SCART. It's not because T and I were the ones that made it. It's because the reason T made it was to solve a very annoying problem that we all were having, based on Steve from HD Retrovision's circuit.
Oh, wait, so...
Well, hold on a minute. Steven just said they have correct dip settings from Retro Castle. I still don't have those. I keep asking for them, and keep sending me the other stuff, and I just keep playing with the dip switches until it works.
So here we go. This is the truth right here.
All right, I'm saving that. Thank you very much, Steven. I appreciate that.
So wait, direct video does output RGB HV, and then you need to use the HD discard to combine those two into...
So what the HD15 discard is doing is it's allowing you to do one of two things. You either pass through RGBS, but it lowers the voltage to be safe in most scenarios. I always want to make sure I'm clear about that. If you plug... if you rip out a lamp cable and twist it to these things and plug it in, you're going to explode everything. It's not like, it's not like a bomb suit. But the goal of this is to make it so that your average thing that comes over a D-sub connector, like direct video, which is higher voltage, will be safe voltage going into the sync line. And then if you flip the switch, it'll also combine H and V to S. But if you just get the, if you were to just plug that direct video output into a retro tank just by wiring it manually, the voltage would be a little too high to the point where I don't think it would be safe. Mike's kind of like, probably, but also not covered under warranty because, that's not the smart move. So that's why you always need MiSTer cables with the sync capacitor on the sync line.
Okay.
Is there a massive echo? All right.
Is it only on me? Wait, now I'm trying to listen. It is on me, Bob. I'm listening to the live stream myself.
No, wait, hold on. All right. Test 1, 2, 3. Lewis, you try.
Okay, test 1, 2, 3 from Lewis.
Talking over Lewis. All right, I think I fixed it. I think I added 2 sources like a moron. I'm sorry.
Yes! But Bob, also, on the live stream, you're only coming out of the left speaker as well on the live stream.
Oh, somebody taught me how to fix that a while back, and I never really knew how. I never remembered. Let me go into advanced. Wait, I think I could just go into that, select mono. Select mono on you too.
Wait, you do that. I need another beer.
All right. And am I going through both speakers now? I apologize for that. That's you'd think after all the streams I've done, I'd be good at it. It's why I'm drinking coffee and not beer or whiskey in the coffee at the moment.
All right.
Speaking of which, let me. I really do need a refill. I'm not just shamelessly shilling my RetroRGB mug.
So here I am drinking Pohjola beer. It's an Estonian craft brewery, Cosmos New England IPA. It's a really good beer. It's clocking in at 5.5% and only cost me €1.80 per can. It was on special. That's why I'm drinking it tonight.
That's awesome. I actually haven't had a chance to drink too much recently, which is always a bummer because I enjoy it. So I'm going to try to catch up with that.
Nice. Yes. Ukraine, James. I am living in Estonia, so that's why I got the Estonian craft beer.
Sweet.
And it's already 7 p.m. for me, so I'm not even an alcoholic much.
Okay, so let's jump back into nerding.
Yes.
And so we have confirmed that direct video works, definitely, obviously. But now we got to figure out, will it work with this adapter here? So the same exact setup, the same cable right here, going directly into this adapter.
Yeah, but Bob, maybe that doesn't work because if direct video is outputting RGB HV, and that little dongle, I think, expects RGBS.
No, direct video is outputting RGBS.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the things that didn't make any sense to me. I discussed this with Risha when direct video was first released, and I could not understand how you could tell a dumb passive adapter to go from HDMI to specifically RGBS. But she's smarter than me, so the way she explained it, I just said, okay, I'm going to test for myself. And then I did, and it worked. So I was like, well, time to shut my mouth then.
Okay, so it's RGBS. Cool. All right. I know that adapter had some pins on it or something, didn't it? I'm going to look that up myself. Chris Jenkins, I've got these are the small 330 ml cans. I haven't got whole cans or something. We call them tinnies back in Australia. Just a little tinny just to get your hand around something good for the afternoon.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go direct into the retro tank just to make absolutely sure here.
Okay. No, there are no pins on that MVAster. MAVster. I'm looking at the diagram now. Okay, so I would, Bob, this adapter you've got here, could you just test out directly out of a proper I/O board first, like kind of where it was meant to be, rather than...
I don't have a proper I/O board.
Oh.
All the years that I've had all these MiSTers, every time a newer one comes out, I'll buy the newer one, or if the developers are nice enough, they send me one to mess around with, and then I always pay it forward. I always give away the last one, trade it with people, so I never sell anything that was given to me. I shouldn't say that. I've made that mistake a few times, but I never intentionally sell something that was given to me. But yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see on that on the MVAster website, I don't see them talk about direct video. I don't know anything about its direct video capabilities. If it's doing something weird,
that's interesting. Okay, well, so I guess forget that. I will try S-Video just for the heck of it now, and I'll go direct just to make sure. Same thing, just to make sure it's not my PVM settings.
Sure.
But I can't imagine S-Video is going to work, but we'll let me plug this thing in and see just in case.
Flygon, yeah, I'm Australian and I live in Estonia, so that's why it's late for me. And I'm drinking Estonian beer, and why I have this accent. Oh God, mate, tell him he's streaming.
Yeah. All right. So this is not compatible with direct video, so I can't do anything with it. So,
we've learned that lesson today. Okay.
Yep, my buddy Carsey really needed one, and he does have a regular I/O board. So Carsey, this one's for you, buddy.
Extras Anderson makes a good point, because Antonio's similar adapter needs the 5 volts on pin 9, and maybe quite possibly this adapter also needs 5 volts on pin 9 to work, which is why it's not working with direct video.
You know what I can try is a different powered VGA adapter just to see if that makes a difference. So
Could be.
Let me try that.
Okay. Because 5 volts on pin 9 is technically part of the VGA spec. It's not supposed to break anything. It's there. It's just not used by monitors that much. Flygon. Around the Twist, that's a classic Australian show. God, I haven't watched that since I was a kid.
What's that soap opera that's been going on since like the 60s that's still going? The Australian
Home and Away? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. Where I grew up is very much like Summer Bay. Like the picturesque, the beach and the surf club and the small town thing. Oh my God, that's where I grew up, which is fine. You know, until you get to about 16 and you're like, fuck this place. Okay, I'm out of here.
So I'm going to just do the same exact thing I did before and connect this first to direct video to make sure, to RGB direct video just to confirm that it's actually working. This is not going to come up because I still need the HDMI cable, which is definitely a funny mistake I make all the time.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at the webpage for the MAVster right now, and they don't mention anything about needing the 5 volts on pin 9. But if they're doing that conversion, well, they need 5 volts to drive the chips that are on that device. So it kind of makes sense that it would need that.
You know what? Since we're doing comparison shots, I'm doing one with this too, because why the hell not? We're already here. So we can compare those later. All right. So now we've confirmed that this is actually outputting RGBS properly. Let us plug this in and see what we got. I'll start with S-Video, just do what I did before, just to see.
Yeah, sorry, Bob, where are we at right now? What did you just hook up then? Sorry, remind me again.
So what I just did was connect a powered HDMI converter. So powered HDMI to VGA to direct video RGB, just to confirm, yes, it's working, and here's a new adapter that we're testing.
Okay.
So now we're on S-Video, flipping the switch. Okay, so there would not be a problem with voltage if I'm using this Porta HDMI converter, because that will have the voltage on the correct pins. So the fact that we're not getting a damn thing out now is definitely direct video related, or it means it's not. Yeah, it's not compatible with direct video.
Okay, so also that VGA converter you're using definitely does output 5 volts on pin 9.
Yeah, it has to, because I've watched it power stuff before.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, Lou? Thanks for swinging by.
Hey, here's my man, Lou. Good to see you, mate.
All right, so then what I'm going to do is just call it that we can't use this for testing. However, the chip that's used on this is the Sony, where is it in the light? The CXA 1145M. And the 1145s are known to be a little bit more compatible than the 1645s, but we essentially would have gotten the same thing that we saw before. S-Video and Composite that probably would have been terrible without dialing it in at all. So,
and only S-Video because of your cable. I mean, in theory, S-Video is much more hardy than the rest. Like, all this, I mean, I've been talking with Mike Simone quite a lot about the way he's tuning and trying to get composite just right. And S-Video's done. It's done. It's solid out of the box. It came out. But it's now the long tail of work is all about tuning composite over the different platforms.
Yeah. So when I said S-Video, there's 2 parts to that actually. The first part is exactly what I just showed about the cable and how you're going to get the banding just like you would with any unshielded cable. But there's also dialing in the pixel clock and everything else, which doesn't make as big of a deal when you're just doing S-Video, but it definitely makes a difference, which we should probably see with the with Mike's things in a moment. But I'm going to be switching gears for a second here. I think you'll all enjoy this one. I did get permission, as always. I'm not just out here, whipping out other people's new designs. I absolutely got permission to show this.
What's Bob whipping out? Jesus, okay, whip it out.
Here is a prototype board from Pork, from MiSTer Add-ons. And there are a couple of things. Let me see which camera is going to look better for this. There's a couple of things to note.
This is an I/O board, is it?
It's a new I/O board, and there are 2 prototypes that I'm testing. This one uses direct video to generate all of its signals. Also has a Saturn port, and has the CXA encoder, or I can't remember if this was it. Yeah, it's a CXA encoder. And this one is a... What is this? 25 something. So this is an even newer encoder. So there's 2 things to note about this. First and foremost, it's a prototype. So anything that we see here today, it's not a thing. But this was designed in case you need 2 RAM sticks in order to run Saturn. So if you still want analog output, you could get this. There's also going to be a version of this that plugs on a little bit differently, so it would handle just one, but this is still just a prototype. Steven, yeah, I think it is the 2075M. So let's test this sucker now.
Okay, so that I/O board then it's not connecting on the GPIO pins to get its data. It's taking it from the HDMI port, sucking in the signal that way, and then converting it.
Yep, you see that is an HDMI to HDMI bridge right there. And that's
we see.
How
yep.
That's going. So let me
Interesting.
Add the settings into this.
Hey, Bob, I want your opinion on this. And I don't know if this is going to be a controversial, because I guess I have almost like a controversial view on this.
Put some cream on it. If it still stings tomorrow, go to the doctor.
Ow. I feel that the rush towards dual SD RAM solutions is a little bit rushed. That we saw that when Robert was making PSX Core, he was like, well, I think, genuinely, he's like, maybe it needs two, I don't know. And there was sort of this tidal wave of like, oh, two things. And then it turns out, yeah, he got 99.9% of the way with only one. And we just don't know about Saturn's final needs yet. We're already seeing the beta core that's out is like not bad with one. And I feel like there's a lot of work going on to design these two SD RAM solutions. And I'm like, is it really going to be needed? I'm not convinced yet.
So here's the thing. I love that everybody is preparing for this just in case. And
okay, yeah.
I think at some point, something is absolutely going to require dual RAM sticks. It's just, is it something that we care about? And I mean that with love and respect.
Yeah, sure.
There's a diehard, I don't know, Casio Loopy fan out there that's going to want to play the FPGA core no matter what it takes. But, like, I'm kidding about that, by the way. I don't even know if that's going to be a thing. But there's going to be the need for it at some point. So it's very smart that hardware devs are preparing for it. It's just a matter of, will we need it for cores that everybody plays? Is it, what is the end goal with all of this? But even things like the Jaguar, it's like that core could be completely running right now if you have two RAM sticks. And with respect to me and the 7 other people that like the Jaguar, do we really want to ask these devs to put 100 hours into tweaking it to work on one RAM stick?
Oh, okay.
So would we rather have them work on something else? Do they even feel like it? So that's kind of what the other arguments too,
And I hear that. Okay. And that sounds pretty reasonable. I guess it's just that what I'm hearing, though, is there's a lot of I would say, let's say regular MiSTer users. And maybe, okay, definitely you're on the other end of the scale, Jaguar core. Okay, having to, there are the people that will pay some 100 or 200 or whatever to make sure they can run the Jaguar core, sure. And I just see a lot of confusion from just people who want to get into MiSTer, and they're like, well, look, this MiSTer thing sounds cool. I'm not sure one or two. And I feel like it's adding a lot of confusion in the middle ranks where the things that we're talking about are probably going to be more like the fringe cases like us.
Well, the other thing, too, is that's kind of why people are talking about making these other adapters. Because it's like, at the end of the day, if you're going to have to deal with a discussion of do we need this or not, then why not just prepare and make it? So that way, if somebody's like, you know what, all I want to use this on, I'm going to, 99% of the time on my HDMI TV, but I also have a giant old CRT with composite input. I want to use it on that too. So prepare to build something that doesn't have, or that can use 2 RAM sticks, and then just get an external converter as they're released. So I get it. I get the mentality. I think a lot of devs probably disagree with me about that, but I'm in an interesting position where I'm sitting in the middle, and I get the sympathy for the devs and for the users. So, all right. So we're getting all of this worked out. I think the only thing I need is a USB hub, which I don't remember where I put it. So. 1 second. This is why I always tell people, buy that stupid $5 USB hub. You never know when you're going to need it. I hate telling people to waste money, but $5 to be able to whip this out whenever I need it, worth it.
Okay, so this is the Porkchop Express Beta I/O board that's pulling direct video over HDMI. And what's that? What have you got that plugged in? Is that S-Video there, Bob?
So this is RGB, and this
RGB.
is also through the Sega Saturn port. So this is an RGB SCART Sega Saturn adapter. Let me input.
So that's the second designer now who's chosen the Sega Saturn DIN. It just seems like a good flexible DIN that's got plenty of plugs available.
I hate it. I love the idea behind it, but the problem that we're about to have with the S-Video cable is the issue. So I guess it would be different if Pork also wanted to sell, make 500 fully shielded Saturn S-Video cables. Then sure, but that's going to be a major problem, and I really would have loved to have seen just an S-Video port, but. All right. So,
Right, and I think this is one of the things that's evolving right now is what's the standard? Should it be Genesis? Has everyone got HD Retrovision cables? Should be like the MiSTer and have Genesis cables, or we're all going to have to go out now and get another set of Saturn cables for people? People want a Saturn cord, don't want to buy a Saturn, but they're going to have to buy the Saturn cable anyway.
Yeah. So, this is definitely brighter, but it's clear. Like, it's really freaking clear. Let me zoom in and double check. Yeah, I mean, this might actually be the clearest RGB solution so far, even better than direct video through that other thing.
Okay, nice.
That is very cool, but it is brighter, which changes the colors, so that is always going to be an issue. Now, I'm going to say this until everybody wants to punch me in the face. It's so annoying, but this is a prototype that Pork was more than nice enough to allow me to show and share with you all. So please don't think any complaint I have is going to be one of the shipping versions of it. So,
oh yeah, and shout out to Steve from RetroTech. He's in the chat as well. Steve
what's up,
came along.
Steve?
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is the cleanest signal so far. There's so few bits of analog interference. And another thing to confirm, when I say analog interference, anytime a signal hits analog, there's going to be interference when you turn it back into digital. It's always going to happen. It's just how noticeable it is. So far, this is the cleanest by far. I'll post all of these screenshots up later for everybody, of course, but it is too bright. When I say too bright, I don't mean like, oh my God, you're going to kill your console too bright, but if your consoles are naturally dimmer, it'll probably be fine. If they're naturally brighter, then you might get a little washing out of the colors, a little bit. Okay.
All right, to Thor in the chat, Thor, my friend, any Bang & Olufsen TV is perfect for MiSTer. Thor has the little Swedish flag there, so I'm going to assume you're from Sweden. When we were talking to our man Martin from Denmark, he was telling us how just like these Bang & Olufsen CRTs, they're still just dime a dozen down there. I think any Bang & Olufsen CRT is going to make you look trendy as fuck and also look really good as well.
The only thing to add is a lot of them will accept 480p correctly, but will not process 240p, right? So if that's the case, just set MiSTer to... It's like... I'm forgetting the setting. I feel like an idiot, but it's like direct video 2. So it's still direct video, but it just doubles from 15 to 31 kilohertz. And if you do that and add basic scan lines, the basic just, 100% across the screen, you could get a VGA monitor or a B&O CRT to look exactly like a PVM. It's pretty crazy. So
nice.
All right. So this. Is that signal up on the screen? No, yes, no. That's pretty funny. That is not at all what I expected. And I did test this before, by the way. I'm not just like randomly testing somebody's...
Sorry, what was that? What's the configuration now, Bob? Sorry?
So this right here, I bet you this is just like a settings issue or something, because this is S-Video through Pork's adapter, and you could... you know what? Let me switch views.
Oh, right. So you've got your
weird
eBay...
on my retro tank, but as you can see, it looks mostly fine here. There's definitely some color thing going on.
Yeah, something's up. Something's up with that.
Yeah, all right. So let me just double and triple check all these settings. So it's not going to work at all. All right, so let me take a screenshot like this. Let me see why the retro tank is... Oh, no, it's back. I just needed to reset. All right.
Oh, that looks better.
When in doubt, reboot.
Wait, what did you reboot just then?
The retro tank.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, that's all right.
So what you see when...
But wait, but that's going out of the I/O board into the PVM into the retro tank.
Yeah.
But it looked bad on the PVM as well, and now it looks good on the PVM.
No, I will show you that in a second.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me see.
Work S-Video. So let me just pull this screenshot up and open with Paint. So RGB sharp, RGB sharp as fuck.
Shot.
So there's two things going on here. All right. Let me just do this super quick just to see if I could do this. I've never tried this before, so it might not even work. But okay, perfect. Do you all see how there's the vertical interference going down all of the colors?
I see sort of vertical lines. They're moving. They're moving horizontally,
exactly.
but I see vertical lines moving horizontally, yes.
So the vertical lines are the problem of the unshielded cable. However, when you have that mark in the middle there and you have the red that's kind of wiggling, you could see the red wiggle, which I'll show you in a second, a little bit easier. That is the problem. Not the problem, but that is the result of using these direct conversions without the dot clock. And now you'll see with this, there's like a bit of a flicker here. Now,
right.
remember,
Okay, we can say that on red.
We're on a test pattern. So let me just real quick. I'll put up Sonic or something just for the hell of it.
Sure.
Make sure I get off camera here. Japan.
So on Pork's I/O board here, he's taking HDMI, taking the direct video, and so then he's on that I/O board converting it to S-Video and Composite.
Yes.
So but he hasn't got, and again, I'm not trying to disrespect Pork here, he hasn't got any dials or knobs or pots or something like that to help dial it in.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm gonna set this to full screen real quick so I could try to get this focused a little bit better for you all. I really love this camera. I really wish I could use it in my workflow.
Yeah, it's sometimes very hard, I find, during a game to find where the dock roll is happening with the colors. I use virtual racing a lot because there's a very light background and I can very easily see on the fonts on the HUD.
Lowered the ISO a little bit.
I think it's going to be tough to see with this S-Video because S-Video is usually so straightforward. Okay. Usually around whites, where whites edge onto other colors is where I usually see that a lot.
So there's definitely like a color flicker thing going on here. And it's not better or worse than Retro Castles. It's just different. It's just a different artifact based on using a different Sony chip is my guess, 100% guess. But it's still gorgeous. And if you're talking about, like, if there were no other choices, and if the MiSTer project is always going to be, you have to find an external solution to convert it, I can't imagine people being pissed about this. You can kind of see the sky flashing a little bit. That's the same exact side effect that we saw in the color bars before. But in all honesty, if this is the last solution that we have, this is awesome. This is absolutely great. And, it could be better, but considering everything that goes into this, I'd be very happy with it. But, of course, we're not done.
Of course we're not done.
More testing.
I think it's a very good point, Bob, that when we're working on these S-Video and then composite solutions, yes, we've got to get rid of like the really obvious rainbowing. There's a lot of work that could still be done. Mike's working on that on his adapters, but there's a reason we're on S-Video. It's not the RGB. It's not the highest thing. So
you just said it right in that there's a reason that people need S-Video because they don't have RGB inputs. So if you put it in that context, it's a lot easier to forgive things that aren't 100% perfect.
Exactly.
So here is another good example of what I've seen with these converters. Now it's the same thing but worse. A whole lot of flashing. Let me get this input, see if I could get it up on the retro tank like this.
To answer
exactly here. So do you all see this in the chat?
Yeah. Oh god. Yep. Oh god. Okay.
So this is this is not really usable for composite, which is why, with zero disrespect to Pork or anybody else, I imagine that other adapter would have worked exactly like this, by the way. But this is what's really going to happen with most conversions without that variable capacitor.
Right.
But you could see it's kind of all over the place. And in fact, I want to test one other thing while we're here before we go over to the mics adapters. But I want to switch over to the SNES core just so you could see how this is different. But I mean, because this is pretty bad. So
sure. And the SNES core should be better.
Nope. Equally as bad, but different.
Oh, okay.
Just as an example of what these differences are.
Sure. So from the chat, Osh Sir, dot crawl is what you're just seeing on the screen right now. When you convert RGBS to S-Video or Composite, you get artifacting. It's not a perfect process. If you do that conversion externally, so when it was your Genesis with your actual console, the converter chip was on the same circuit board inside of the same console, and that's because it's using this what's called the same pixel clock timing. And so then, yes, it could make very good S-Video and Composite. But when you are doing that conversion externally in another device, when you're converting RGBS to S-Video or Composite, there's a pixel clock being used, but it won't be at the exact it'll be just like a little bit out of sync. So that's what dot crawl comes from, when you do the conversion without using that exact same timing inside of the console. So any external converter will produce some level of dot crawl. Now that can be avoided by using these variable capacitors like RetroCastle did, or some sort of tuning.
That's very weird. This happened to me the other day. I think it's my SD card, but I'm not be able to boot Super Nintendo. All right, well, let's see what else we got that has a test pattern. We got other shit in here. That's funny. It happened the other day on a same SD card, but on a different MiSTer setup. I'd be willing to bet I just need to format and start over. So what else has a very good test suite? Game Boy Advance.
Flygon in the chat, what do you mean by a purely analog converter? Explain that idea a little bit more to us.
In what context?
I don't know. That's why. Flygon said, I have a dumb question. What about a purely analog converter?
That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. And that's what I'm going to test in a second, actually. So that's the Game Boy Advance core, and you can see the flicker back and forth. And it's different, but equally as distracting. So this isn't really something that you would be able to that you'd be able to enjoy on most sets. I guess if you were playing on RF anyway, whatever, but this is not the composite video solution. And in Pork's defense, he never once claimed that it would be. Here's a direct video solution that gets you RGB and S-Video, and oh, by the way, there's composite on there. I'm 100% on board with that. 100%.
Sure. I was wondering, maybe Bob, you can answer my question a little bit more. That I've been doing the same thing as you, testing. I plug in an adapter, I test, I look, I take a screenshot, try to work something out. But it's all not very analytical. Like, could we get more analytical by somehow plugging these signals into an oscilloscope? Would that somehow be more scientific?
All that would do is start to show you where the dot crawl is happening. And if you were to add the pixel clock signal to this, it would change the shape of how it shows up on the scope. And once again, if any of my super smart friends are listening, I'm trying to make an easy answer that I could understand. I know I'm skipping over all of this stuff, but when you use a scope to see this, all you're really seeing is proof and exact measurements. So like when I just said, I think Pork's is a little bright, that in the context of this stream, that's good info. But in the context of troubleshooting, that doesn't mean shit. That's useless to Pork, and I would never say that to him. So I would throw that on the scope. I'd get exact measurements. Hey, you're at 760 millivolts instead of 740, which is 100% safe on everything that's ever been released. But you might wash out some colors. You might, we'll see. Like that's where scopes really, really start to help, is getting exact measurements, so that I'm not just describing to people what the repercussions are. I'm helping developers figure out where and what they could tweak.
Okay.
So
it's not really like we couldn't just get these things and hook them up to a scope and say like, well, the value of this is something, so we know that this is a good composite signal.
not without adding the pixel clock.
Okay. All right.
So let's try this. My buddy Ashen.
Oh, cool. Yeah. This is
RGB
nice.
to
One of these
YC.
ones. Okay.
So this is the same thing that we discussed when this device came out. And I'm going to continue to use Porks because it had really, really nice RGB output, which I guess is skewing the results towards this a little bit, but it's a different product, so fuck it. You know what? If you have a problem with it, go on Classic Gaming Discord and talk about it.
We're good. So wait, you've got the Ashen work. So you're going to take RGB out of Porks at the I/O board, is that right?
Right, so I'm going to be switching over to RGB from Porks.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this board. And then, am I on the screen? No, I'm not on the screen. What an asshole. Sorry.
Such an arsehole, Bob. Jeez.
All right, yeah. RGB from Porks into this. It's a little dim because I have it tuned to the screen here. And we're going to see how this external converter handles RGB to composite in S-Video. Now, there's a few things to note about this one as well. It is kind of expensive, and with all of the respect in the world, I think Ashen got it wrong. He provides 3 sets of inputs that you could only pick one at a time. He even wrote that right on the top, so awesome. Good job, Ashen. Except, you could choose between or you could have dual outputs, but it's dual S-Video or composite. And I think the mistake with this, it should have been RGB in, and RGB composite and S-Video out. So that way if you're passing through, like if you're gaming on a giant, gorgeous S-Video CRT and streaming via RGB, you could have it all. So, where the hell am I going to plug this one in?
Okay. So you were saying that this device did, I remember you saying this device did like a pretty good job, like a better job of the conversion.
It's the same theory, and it's also not going to have the pixel clock in there. So it should be the same. The only reason I would think it might be a little bit better is that this isn't MiSTer specific. You could use this on absolutely anything that has an RGB, either RGB Euroscar or JP21. All right. Now that I have a whole bunch of unsafe power adapters all plugged into each other. This also has PAL NTSC switching. You could adjust the RGB levels. It's pretty cool. So yeah, and there's 4 inputs. You could either go direct RCA in, which is great for coming from a cross point because you could use BNC connectors, JP21, Euroscar, or just RGBS or RGB-HV. So I actually, if we weren't using this, I could have plugged this directly into direct video output too or anything. So that is cool as hell. I'm going to plug direct S-Video first and skip the monitor just for troubleshooting, because you're going to laugh when you see my second S-Video cable. But one step at a time here. Let me get this plugged in. Output. I will switch over here. Okay. This in. Am I on? Am I out? Alright.
Okay. So this is RGB.
This is S-Video.
Oh, S-Video, sorry. Out, RGB into AshenWorks and then S-Video out.
Correct.
Okay.
Test patterns, empty color bars. So that looks good. That looks very good. Let me... This is the brightness adjustment, so I could dial that in. Which I love and hate that. I love that there is a brightness adjustment, but that affects voltage. So the way Ashen set it up, you probably wouldn't be able to turn it up too high to hurt any equipment. Probably. But what if you get your left and right confused and you think like, oh, well, I'll just turn it all the way down before I turn it on, but you actually leave it all the way up? I don't know. That's why a lot of Ashen's products are really expert stuff, but I love them. So I think this is absolutely awesome. And this looks great.
It's very solid. Very solid. So that was better. And that's using, S-Video out. So the S-Video out of AshenWorks adapter. Is that right?
Yeah, and so it looks great for two reasons. One, you don't see the vertical interference that we've already said, and I will continue to say, is the fault of the cable, not Pork's adapter.
Right, that's what I mean.
The RetroCastle. Here's an example of what it's going to look like without that on there, which is pretty cool. But also, there's no shimmer and wiggle, and there's no flicker on this one. So, S-Video... Yeah, Pork RGB direct video. I've learned to well label all of these screenshots because of all the times where like I'll remember through the whole project and I'll come back a year later and be like, what the hell is wiggly pork mean? I don't know. Like, was I hungry? What the? And it's like, oh, okay, that's right. I get it now.
So this is excellent S-Video coming out of here. This is real nice. So that's what I bet. The reports I'd heard about AshenWorks' converter were always like, yeah, it does a really good job at it. Just somehow he's got, I don't know, he's tuned it better or something like that. I don't really know, right?
I don't know that he tuned it better. I just think that he thought of everything that's going into this in order to make it work. So, all right, let me take a look at this. We're gonna laugh our way through this. This cable might be reversed, so let's cross our fingers that I did this right. Still no signal. This is funny as hell. Okay, hold on. I'll show you all what I'm doing if I can get this working. If not,
what is Bob doing? The mysteries of Bob. The many moods.
No, nothing. Bueller. Oh, okay. Unplug. Plug in. Okay. Is the tink coming back up or not?
Nope, I don't see anything up here.
When in doubt, reboot.
And you've just got a generic S-Video cable going from AshenWorks into the BBM.
Yeah, so here, let me show you why this was getting weird for a second. So this is my S-Video cable.
Okay, nice.
The other day, I bought a couple of VCRs for testing. That's a video that's going to come up as soon as I have time. And my buddy Clint Cronin, he did the podcast with me a while back. He was telling me how he got a couple of JVC VCRs that were S-Video only worked if you had an SVHS player. It didn't have a comb filter and a converter built in. And I brought one home and I plugged it in and it was black and white only. And I was like, oh shit, this is what Clint was talking about. So then I bought a different one because I needed at least 3 for this video. And this was like a high-end one. I plugged it in and it was also black and white. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is like, did I really just get the unlucky pick twice? So at one point because I had to climb back behind all of that in order to do it. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not the skinniest, so that's never easy. So I climbed back and I rewire everything, and my wife was helping me. She's patient. She'll sometimes sit down here and be like, "Is there color? Is it working?" And she's like, "I don't know what you just did, but there's color." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I realized my S-Video cable was broken. One of the connectors, the chroma connector, broke. So both VCRs did output right. So that's my spare cable now is S-Video to BNC cables for use with like cross points and stuff. So I had to wire 2 of those together to get this to work, which is pretty funny. So,
all right, MacGyver solution. Good.
But as you can see, this AshenWorks converter, like even if I turn the brightness up here, you're gonna get some kind of like haloing, ghosting, whatever you want to call it, over from red to blue and from green to magenta.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, this is a pretty solid solution.
It's good. You'd be happy with that. And let's also keep in mind you're viewing this on a PVM as well. It's gonna show up those imperfections more than a consumer set.
Yeah, and for comparison, I'd also like to check out Composite Video now, but now I'm going to have to find another freaking cable, so you have to give me a second.
All right, I was going to do more conversion. God, what has he got next? So
and
now
I
it's...
gotta walk all the way around so I don't trip and kill myself on all these cables. Well, that would make for a pretty funny stream.
I want to see that. That's where I'll start giving the tips. Y'all, 5, 5, 5 when Bob falls on his ass.
Yeah, I would hope that the super chats would start coming in if the ambulance rolls up.
Yeah, you're in America. Well, you're gonna need it, baby.
All right, green, and we're gonna put that over here.
So yeah, what are you trying now, Bob?
Composite video.
A composite. Okay. Oh, right. It's a composite out of AshenWorks. This is the AshenWorks converted to composite. Okay.
Yes, and as you can see, there's the wiggle again, exactly like
wiggle
with Porks, exactly like it.
Mm-hmm.
So yet another reason why I'm not shitting on any Pork stuff is just this is what it is. Why is my Tink not working? Is it the...
Okay.
Oh, did I? No, that was still working. Do we get a blue screen?
Oh yeah, so the Tink seems to be having problems today with changing of resolutions.
It's not the Tink, it's my setup. So that's a couple of weeks ago I did or maybe less than that, I did a post online on Twitter about how many people have had HDMI cables just die. Mm-hmm. And I had like 5 of them start to fail all in the same week. And they're years old, multiple years old, so that's understandable, I get that. But like, it's still freaking weird. So this was working, but this is the same brand of cable that's been failing, so...
Okay.
Alright, let me grab a second Tink just in case.
Okay, so somewhere the cable, the Tink, something's going on with that. Alright.
You know, a couple of people over the years have, like, made the comment of how fumbly some of these live streams are. I gotta say, this is what it's like to test this shit. This is exactly, in every way, what this is like all the time. So when Lewis and I have videos come out that are like 8 to 10 minutes long, this is what we're going through to get there.
Yeah, I got that stuff. One of the issues that I have right now is I actually don't have an S-Video monitor. I've got a BVM, a 9-inch BVM, but those 9-inch BVMs have a very common problem where they'll lose color on the composite and S-Video lines. They accept RGB and component, and that's rock solid, looks great. So I've never really worried about it too much. So right now, I'll show you these. I'll bring them up to the screen. I took these out of my storage room. So I've got... These are 2 9-inch BVMs that I had in my storage room. They're both the 904DD. And, I'll put them down. Oh, God, that's like a workout. So I had a few of those in my storage room. And I've yet to plug them in, and I wanted to double check, do they have the black and white problem on S-Video or not? So the reason I've got 3 or 4, 5, no, I have 5 of these BVM 9044D monitors, and the reason that I got 5 of exactly the same thing is that in Estonia, there was really, as much as I know, really only one place was really using PVMs and BVMs, and that was an old outside broadcast van, like a semi-trailer that was fitted out, and it was built just before the U2000. I think they built it for 2000 was the Sydney Olympics. So I think whenever they were building it for the Chinese Olympics that were after, was it the China? I don't remember. They built it for some Olympics, right? Outside broadcast van, and it was one of the last ones built that still used CRTs. So that was then sitting on a lot for years and years and years. And then I somehow made a connection with these guys, and I ended up getting into it. And that's where I got my 20-inch BVM from. I got a whole bunch of 14-inch screens, and I got these 9s, and there was a few 5s in there as well. And and I didn't manage to get all of them either, because I just literally could not. This sounds like a first world problem. I didn't have enough room for all the 14-inch BVMs. Oh, cry tears. I can hear the chat is just sympathy for me right now. So I know more of these screens got out, but I'm pretty sure most of the professional monitors in Estonia all came from that same lot. They all have very similar serial numbers, and there's very similar models.
Oh, Steven, loud noise. Shit, I'm sorry. You know what that was? That was the AverMedia card passing the audio through. I apologize. But so I also wanted to show this because if you bought one of these adapters and you really just want to use your TV and you know your CRT TV with composite only and you're waiting for other solutions, this isn't terrible. And in fact, if you played the original first and you played this, you're going to notice the flicker. But if you hadn't played the original console, you might just think that this is what composite looks like. See, like the stars moving left and right and everything like that. So this is what you're going to get on every single external adapter in some way or another. It for Super Nintendo, it's actually wavy like this, which is weird because of it. Somebody's going to clip that. It's going to be me on Twitter later. Just, but I just wanted to make the point that it's not awful, but it's not the goal that we're all going for. So what I want to move on to now, and by the way, this is also most likely what this would have done too.
I think so. I agree with you. It would have done that. And let's also keep in mind, this image is being digitized. When we view it on a CRT with your real eyeballs watching a CRT, it doesn't look as wavy or as dodgy as this.
I'll show that right now. And it does look pretty dodgy.
Okay, fair enough.
But just like with everything digital versus analog, it is totally different on a CRT. It's still my analogy before of if you played the real console and this one right after the other, you would notice a difference, but it's not going to ruin the experience. That final statement is way more evident here. And that's why if you're streaming, you should try different splitters so that you could put one HDMI output to your capture card and the other to this. So people who play or people who watch your streams, it looks like awesome ass MiSTer. It doesn't look anything like this. So before we switch over to the Mic S adapters, is there anything else that you would like me to try with this?
No, I think you've pretty much proved the point that I feel anyway, at least to my mind, that if you are converting RGB S to S-Video or Composite externally, you're going to come across these issues to one point or another. There's mitigations you can do, like RetroCastle, to dial it in and or adjust it, but you're going to have these issues no matter what, almost.
Retro Gaming Systems Collector, I don't know a thing about step-down converters. I've used a few before that people have given me and said these are decent to use, and I don't know what happened to any of them, to be honest. I think I shipped them around to different friends who really needed them, so I'm definitely not the right person to ask, although I will say that it's always dangerous. Every time you mess with power, it's not easy. So, alright, let me put some of this stuff away so it's not in our way when we do all of this.
Okay, so now we're moving on to Mic's adapters. Is that right, Bob?
It is, and there's going to be a moment to get there. So my apologies because it's going to take a second to move everything over and to download the cores of his and everything.
All right. Well, let me
give like an overview of what exactly that is. So his cores and what he's trying to do.
Sure. So what we're doing right here now, we're moving on to a new solution, which is Mike Simone's YC or S-Video cores. And Mike has tried to find a different way to solve this problem. So Mike has produced this solution where the S-Video, which is the Luma and Chroma, or YC, if you want to call it that way, it's being generated inside of the MiSTer core. So it's actually happening inside of the MiSTer. It's not fed into the I/O board or fed into some external device. So it's being generated internally. And when it's generated internally, you can get a much, much better S-Video and therefore composite because of the things we were talking about. It can use the same pixel clock. The timings are correct. So these are modified cores. These are not the straight-up cores. Mike has taken the existing cores and added this S-Video code into them. And you don't get that in the regular update all script. You have to download them manually. So the idea of Mike's cores is that he's generating S-Video internally in the core. And when you flick the switch inside of Mike's cores, in the menu, there's an option. And it says, well, do I output RGBS like normal and do the regular thing? Or do I output S-Video? And when you flick the switch and you say, I want to output S-Video, out of the I.O. board, what you get is pin 1 is chroma and pin 2 is luma. I think it's that. I think that's the way they are. I forget which one it is. So remember, S-Video is just two signals. It's chroma and luma. It's luma, which is the actual picture, the black and white signal, and chroma is the colors that are laid on top of that. And S-Video is just 2 signals. So pin 1 and pin 2 become that output then. And so to use these new S-Video cores from Mike Simone, we need to find a way to get or a converter plug for pin 1 and pin 2 off the I.O. board and get that into an S-Video connector that we can plug into some video device. And it should be pretty much perfect, as good as you can get S-Video signal straight out of the I.O. board.
And the problem with that, because there's always a freaking problem.
There's always a problem.
Is that this takes up, or this would require each core to have this tweaking done. So before, when I was talking about putting in any of the pixel clock info, and how it would be an absolute ton of work to do that, and at the end of the day, you'd still have to do it for every core, that doesn't really make sense if you're still requiring external stuff to do all that. But if you're doing something like actually generating the composite and S-Video for each core, meaning all you need is passive output adapters, that's hugely beneficial if it works well, which we'll see for the first time right now. This is the first time I've actually ever tested mics. So that's kind of the thing. But there's a lot more to it. Will it fit in the FPGAs with all of the other info that's here? Is there not enough space left? Would we have to give up features? Is this something that people are going to care about because there's so much else involved? It's kind of a very big, weird deal, and it's interesting. Going to be interesting to see. But I'm going to test with you all in real time. Let's see, and we'll see what happens. But sync.
Sure. So this is where supposedly
it will work with with direct video.
Oh yeah. Oh, because you don't have a regular I/O board. Oh.
No, I did talk to Mike. He did say it would work with direct video. And let me just go into the. Let me switch over to the Retro Tank just to confirm a few things. There we go. Wrong button.
Answering Steven's question in the chat, he was saying, so if something has a variable pixel clock that exactly matches the original hardware, it'll never be as good. I think it's not, as I have understood, again, I'm getting my head around this stuff as well, so I would like to be corrected if I am wrong. You can have a pixel clock in the external device as well, and it can be exactly the same pixel clock, but what it's doing is it's generating a signal, right? But if the external device, okay, it can be making the same signal, but if they're just a little bit off, like they can be just slightly out of sync, still the same pulse length or whatever. I thought, as I imagined, that was the issue, that getting them to fire at exactly the same time is the tricky part of why it's harder than it seems to have an external pixel clock. All right, some almost there. Ooh, the ghosts. So yeah, the idea of Mike's cores is that it should be a fairly small adapter, that most of the hard lifting, most of the tuning should be done inside of the core. And if we're just taking S-Video, then that signal's already good. Like, it doesn't need any tuning. It's ready to go. The real difficulty is coming when it comes to composite. So the way that Mike has elected to do composite is that the external adapter is going to mix the chroma and luma into composite, because that's all a composite signal is just a mix of chroma and luma pushed down together into one signal. But you get a lot of issues when you try to just combine it together like that. I asked Mike, why doesn't he just do that inside of the core? And he said this was just an engineering decision, that to generate composite out of the core directly would be a lot. Significant, he said, significant more work if it was even possible. Whereas if he has this solution where S-Video comes out of the core and then a simple, very passive dongle mixes it, that's pretty cheap, he thought that was a more elegant, cheaper, and faster solution than generating composite internally.
Especially because you're going to need a passive adapter anyway, and the cost to make something like that is like pennies compared to anything else. So
you may as well just put the resistor in the you're going to need an adapter anyway. Just put the resistor in there. You're ready to go. A capacitor resistor. You're good to go.
So
Bob, why is this dude so handsome? Bob, exactly. Bob is handsome.
All right, I am plugging in the SD card with the new cores in it.
All right, wait, I need another beer.
All right. Should help if I plug in the power. Okay. So, going over to console.
Okay.
Genesis YC, so that's the custom core.
Mm-hmm. So it's black and white until you get into the core and you flick on the YC option, and then it'll go to color.
All right, so SMPTE color bars, and now S-Video enable. Yes. So that brightness thing, I bet you that's the Tink. I did it last time.
Also, Bob, have you got the latest version of the YC cores?
I just downloaded it a second ago. So.
Oh, okay. Because I thought they had a different menu option. It said, the ones I have in the menu say RGB, or do you want RGB, or do you want, like, they had a nicer label there. So, okay.
Let me plug it in a different way just to make sure. So we get that confirmed. Let me use my stupid pigtail adapter thing. Okay. Now, I will feed this over to here. Okay.
All right.
Something's off. I can't tell if it's my cables or...
Yeah, you wiggle it around and it changes. But that picture looks all right on the screen here.
You know, I'm going to pass this through. So let me switch views for a moment just so I can show everybody what I'm seeing. Run update all. Yeah, and that would mess up all the custom stuff I just did. So on the CRT, this looks weird. But I'm also using this janky adapter that you can see. Yeah, see? Mm. So I'm going to just go direct into the Tink for now. Just at least to get the screenshots so that we could eliminate my weird-ass cable situation for these testings. So let me go back into the Tink here. Okay. So that actually looks pretty good. Let me snap a shot of it next to the rest of them. And let me double check my settings here. So we are at Genesis. It's at 1080p under. Okay, so we're the same at this one then.
Okay.
S-Video. So I'm gonna put this up on my screen next to Ashen's, because that was the best one that I had seen so far. Ashen's looking pretty sharp, but it still has the banding issue between the colors, which you're gonna get on no matter what. Okay, Mike's seems a little dim.
Looks a bit faded, I thought, at least from my view.
Yeah. Let me see how it looks direct into the CRT.
Which MiSTer are you using? The RetroCastle one or the Pork one?
RetroCastle, but it's just going direct video output through the HDMI.
Okay.
So that's going to have no bearing on this whatsoever. I like the I don't like to use things without a case on it in these testings because of how many times I've leaned forward and put my hand down on something. So let's see, maybe the no, that's not doing anything.
It's a bit light on the screen. I always worry about that direct video thing. Maybe it's just a bit of voodoo because I don't use it, and I'm a hardcore, like, I want the I/O board. I'm Mr. Analog. So I'm always a bit like, whenever there's that HDMI to VGA conversion in it, I'm like, eh.
No, I mean, I've had really good luck with this. And in fact, there's an argument that certain methods of direct video would allow you for better audio and video output quality.
Yeah, sure, I understand the bits or something, the 10 bits or the 8 bits.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's switch over to Composite now.
Okay.
And see what we got. So do I put this over here? No. One jumper isn't doing anything, and that's one of the things that he said I would have needed. Let's see, what do we got over here? That's funny. Okay. So maybe I have not tested this at all yet, so it's a possibility that I have the wrong adapter.
Hmm.
But that's a good thing that I have these bullshit adapters here, because now I can use that to test.
At least...
Where's my Y cable? Alright. I have so many of these damn things.
Yeah, I'm getting a little confused as to your setup there with the special S-Video cable and then direct. I'm trying to work it out.
Okay. So, what I have here is this pigtail adapter. So let me hold it up to this over here. So this is supposed to combine Y and C into Composite. But I've never used this in my life. I don't know where it came from. I found one of these that looked like this looked like a Sega Genesis end. I think a lot of these came with old video cards from the 2000s. And I think they might be wired different. So now I'm going to take this, which definitely splits Y and C to S-Video, and use just a basic Y cable to combine them exactly as you would expect.
Yeah, I think you need to be really careful about cables that look like S-Video or look like Saturn. There was sort of this generic round mini DIN, and I see it a lot here in Estonia in the thrift stores, that I think one of our digiboxes or something must have had that. So I see loads of these generic 9 or 10 pin mini DIN to SCART, because everyone had them back in the day with their Viasat or whatever it was. But it's not S-Video and it's not Genesis.
That's what you do with cables that are all fucked up. It feels like such a waste, but let me tell you right now, how many times I've probably grabbed a cable like that and just thought like, oh, I'll remember that this doesn't work and do it a different way later. And yeah, you know how that fucking goes. So, all right. So now we proved that this is working. Let me check over here. Yeah, the second jumper, I don't really understand what it does. I mean, because there's two jumpers on this adapter.
Oh, that's Mike's adapter, right? Yeah. Wait, let me bring that up. Mike showed me that. Wait, Mike showed me those. Oh, Mike's traveling, but he's on with me in Discord. Wait, he showed me that schematic a while ago, and I was talking to him about it. Wait. Because one of them is for direct video. If you're using direct video, you need one of them. And the other one was something else. Where was it? Maybe Twitter, I was talking to him. So there's one that's marked DV on that board. That one, I guess you have to, because that's the direct video jumper.
Okay. This is awesome. This is composite video. It's a little dim, so I don't really understand what's going on. That could be my direct video adapters putting out slightly too low voltage. I could try the other adapter again in a second, as long as I have... Yeah, I could try that again in a second, but this is composite video, and there's no wiggle, and there's no diagonal interference. This is great.
So this is sorry, Bob. Again, I get confused about what you're at. So it's direct video out to Mike's adapter, and then you're just using the pigtail to go S-Video into Composite.
Yes.
Okay.
And
cool.
so when Mike's adapter first came out, both you and Lou had talked about Lewis and Lou. Sorry, here you all have to keep up. It's gonna have to. We're talking about how in order to make composite video, you couldn't just use a Y cable. You'd have to have a little circuit built in, and that's what Mike's hardware adapter solves. All you would need. So I actually asked if you could put on the next revision just an RCA adapter for composite so people don't have to worry about this anymore. But in the prototype adapter, you still need an S-Video to composite cable, or the janky solution I just showed. But anything that you need is on the board itself. So I think, to be perfectly honest, I think the perfect Mic S board would be D-sub input, which means you could use IO board or direct video or whatever else, and have component, composite, and S-Video out. Why component? Because very simply, it would be able to break it out, and Mike could add a jumper, because for direct video, you can't just use a D-sub to component pass-through. There has to be one resistor in there, I think. There has to be something in there. I might be wrong about the resistor. So if Mike could put that on his board, this would essentially be the perfect direct video adapter, and that you can get all of the outputs and not have to worry. And I guess maybe even route something to another. I don't know. Figure out for RGB, if at all. But that would be the perfect solution. But this is really great composite. I do want to grab that other direct video adapter real quick to see if it clears up. Sure. Because white is dim. I mean, this is definitely too dim. So we'll see.
Right. So a few actually quickly, Bob. I was actually now Mike said he was traveling, but he's somehow still talking to us in Discord. So I guess he's watching
Mike just
on the road
in the chat too. What's up, Mike?
As he goes, and he said that the image may seem a little dim because the chroma voltage is a little under spec, and he's working on that in the next revision of the adapter. I know I was talking to Mike as well about this, that I think he's still having a lot of thoughts about how complex the adapter should be, and that there's the initial versions of the adapter that are just super straightforward, super simple, which also implies super cheap, super easy for people to build and make themselves. And then there are the revisions down the line to get rid of both the edge cases that you've spoken about, like this exact quite thing, and just to remove like the really academic stuff, and then to do extra cool stuff like you said, Bob, like add component, add all the ports that we could ever hope for. So I think it's a very iterative and evolving process for Mike right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I would absolutely, without a doubt, say that like putting whatever. Well, first of all, change the jumpers to switches. Large-handed bears have a little bit of trouble pulling those
Bob's
things off.
fat hands don't work.
But also, I just think having as much built in as possible would benefit everybody, because the goal of these things, you know, and this is something I've tried to push all of MiSTer towards, and the goal of it is to be something that anybody who could use a Raspberry Pi could use, if not easier. Not be something crazy complicated where you have to reference a sheet every time you use it, which I'm not talking shit, right? This is a prototype. We're all figuring this out as we go. You know, it is what it is. But
I guess you're talking end goals there, Bob, where we're also, there's that still, we're in that bit in the middle right now as we're progressing towards that.
Yeah, so it's a little brighter, but it's the same issue where you could see it all the way on the left. Make sure the Luma trap is not bypassed. So, Mike, let me just put this up to the camera for you.
That was one of the pins, I think, Bob. There's two sets of pins. There's the DV pin, and I think the Luma trap was the other pin.
That's how it's set right now for composite video.
Oh, it's really hard to see. You've got the small...
So, both jumpers are closest to the S-Video jack. That's the better way to put it. Mike sent me a little guide before. Let me flip this over so you have something nicer to look at than just a blue screen. Mike sent me a link before. Yeah, Steven, this is, unfortunately, there's no way to get around this when I'm just wandering about in these streams, but... Alright, so to enable the sync on green circuit, move the jumper closest to the S-Video port. Okay. To disable the Luma trap, move it closest to the S-Video port. So I need to move it over 1. Yeah, move the jump over for the trap. So I'm going to do this on camera so you can see in real time what's happening, because I just, all right. So that's how it is now. I'm taking off the Lumitrap jumper. The screen kind of wiggled for a second. It did nothing. Let me wiggle this around and see. Yeah, it only does something when I first remove or put it on the other side, but it doesn't really do anything. Did I mess something up on the board here? Yeah,
no, I don't think you did. Okay.
Sorry, Mike. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it could very well be that I just manhandled the thing and bent one of the components. But it looks all intact.
So you think so, Bob? You changed the Lumitrap pin and it didn't do anything. Is that what you're saying right now?
But let's try a different core.
Yeah, which core is this?
Video.
This is still Genesis.
Yeah, actually, let me throw on Sonic, because we've been staring at that. We're used to it.
Okay.
It is a little harder to see. It's definitely dimmer. Yeah, so that's gray. That's supposed to be white. Yeah,
but
so something
looks wrong on camera. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about all your chain there, Bob, a little bit.
Well, it's going direct into the PVM here. And
okay.
Let me pull. So there's really not much I could be doing wrong. It's either working or it's not.
Okay.
The only thing that maybe this pigtail adapter is a little crappy, but that's not going to cause what we saw.
Sure. Okay, and this is composite, so we're blending it in. But if we can you switch it now? Could you just switch it back to S-Video for a moment to see is there still some issue there? Like if you just take the pigtail out, plug S-Video straight into the PVM.
Sure. Let me grab this. S-Video direct in. That's this one. Okay. So let me just reset the game. Yeah, so it's still gray and not white. I think I'd have to move the trap back over though, right? Yeah, it's same thing. Didn't do anything when I moved the
Didn't do anything. I don't think it
off.
would make a difference.
I mean, that still looks pretty freaking good though. Like, holy crap, good.
Yes, that's S-Video?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to look good. It looks tip-top. That's where, I mean, most of the work for S-Video is done. It's the tuning for composite, which is now the longer tail, which is much more fiddly.
NESYC. Let's try that just for the hell of it. Empty color bars. Now S-Video enable. Yes. Interesting. That's kind of off too.
It looks a bit dim on the camera. Is that how you see it?
Yeah. Dim and the colors are off. Let me just try my other HDMI adapter again just to see. And I could also just try a DE10 with nothing else plugged into it. I could try that as well just to see if there's anything interfering in here. Certainly worth a try. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to take out this other converter, and I'm going to try repeating this with just a DE10 Nano, nothing plugged into it whatsoever.
Try that. It is. I know you don't have one. It is a real shame you don't have a stock I/O board there to try this on, because I think that is sort of the main use case. Direct video, I think it's been tested a bit, but maybe not as much as the I/O board stuff.
Yeah, I still really like the idea of direct video, though, because even if dual RAM sticks are not a thing, imagine a scenario in which you have your MiSTer plugged into your flat panel, and then anytime you want to play on Composite, you just unplug your MiSTer, walk it over to your composite setup and plug that right into the HDMI port. So I think direct video absolutely is going to have its place with stuff like this.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so here is this one. Let me unscrew Pork's adapter, not because I think it's going to do anything bad, but just out of the principle of visual cues. This is DE10 only. Is there a way to turn up the chroma signal for now? I mean, I could mess with the dials on my monitor, of course. But that's about it.
That might do it. Yeah, because you've got that chroma on the bottom of the PVM there.
It's also tough testing with the RetroTink as well, because you can't really... It's not easy to adjust stuff, and you really kind of shouldn't anyway. All right, but here we go. We have just the DE10. Nothing else.
That's it.
The
real deal.
Switch this over. And different power adapter, because the Retro Castle uses USB-C. So I was going to switch that over. What did I do with the other one? Here we go.
I saw that on Retro Castle's USB-C. I mean, that's kind of cool as well. Nice that there are some sellers that are adapting, giving us something different.
Always do this. I do it on stream. I do it off stream. I'll set up some complicated shit and then forget to plug in the SD card, forget to plug in the power. Just do that every time I work on something. All right. We're back.
Okay, nice.
Console.
Okay, this is the YC cores again. So, yep, we got to find a YC core.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I don't know if I clicked on that. I might have gotten too jumpy. There we go. Genesis
there we are.
YC. Jules and 240p. 70. Okay, so it's about the same. So there was
that
nothing...
looks. I mean, on camera it looks better.
Really?
At least, I mean, the camera feed that we're seeing.
But this is still not white.
Let me see. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I missed that part of my Skype call that I saw you then. So there's still that little bit off. Yeah, try chroma. Oh yeah. Try chroma. Wait.
Yeah. Still not white.
Okay.
That might not be white. That might be like, it might supposed to be like 18% gray or something. But...
Yeah, because the box in the bottom row is white. Maybe, Bob, you could pull up another test pattern on the 240p test suite that sort of we 100% know this is white. God, now we sound like some terrible YouTube live stream. Bring on the whites!
Oh,
no,
right. Here we go. Thanks, Lewis.
Okay, there's still some gray in the white on the left there.
Yeah. All right, let me take another snapshot though, because you're right. Maybe it is a little different. So let me just go direct into the Tink and try that again.
Okay.
I'm going to do a couple of things here, just to make sure that all of this stuff is falling into place. I'm going to take another shot with the Tink, but then I'm also going to connect direct video directly to my HDMI device, and take a shot of that there. That way we could just confirm what this was originated as.
John.
All right.
This is the good stuff. This is the the difficulties that we have in testing these things. We're seeing this in real life, the confusion, the uncertainty when you plug something in. Why does it look like that? Why is it that you never see on a polished video once it's finally released?
All right. One right after the other. Yeah, all right. It looks fine. There's something else going on here.
Okay. That's direct. That's RGB direct video.
No, that is S-Video through the Tink. So there's something up with my monitor then. Mike, if you're still listening, yeah, there's something up with my monitor. So let's
sold Mike out. Mike's good. It looks good. It's the PVM.
So let's continue to test with the Tink. But this is the shit you deal with, right? Is my, up until now, awesome condition 14-inch monitor just now dying? If so, Steve. I normally I'd bump Jose with that, but he has
as we see in the chat there,
that's taller than me, of crap that I've had to feed him over the years to work on. So I think he's a little done with my shit for a while. Okay,
Bob, great suggestion. Can you just try something else raw into the 14-inch PVM just to test it? I don't know. What do you got?
Sure. Give me a sec. I just want to try the composite video here just to see what happens. And then I'll do that as well. That's a good idea.
Yeah. There's Steve in the chat. He's saying he's working on Bob's stuff. He told me, he's got something else of yours right now. Pretty much every other week, Steve mentions something about, I'm working on this for Bob.
Yeah, it's not all my stuff. It's a very long story that ends in Steve and I are doing some nerding. All right, so this is composite direct into the Tink, and it is still having the same issue. So, so there is some more work still on composite. I wasn't totally crazy on that.
There is the composite thing is a tricky situation, and there's a lot of manual tuning to be done, not only per core basis, but as I've been talking with Mike, it's also there's a bit PAL and NTSC need to be taken into account as well. When these solutions come out, I suspect that the vast amount of interest is going to be for NTSC. Because if you live in PAL land, it's much more likely that you have access to SCART on your televisions. All across Europe, all of our TVs are SCART. Like 85% of the TVs that I see have RGB SCART in them. And then after that, it's true, some are composite only. But I think mostly it's... Steve thinks you need to mess with the phase or chroma on the PVM, but I think you knew that.
Well, I'm going to check right now with the original console so we can see.
Oh, dang. See, that's why we need Bob. He's got everything right there. So, yeah, with tuning these cores and getting composite just right, yes, it's every core is a little bit different. And then PAL and NTSC make a difference. My little chat with Mike just a little bit earlier, he's focusing on NTSC for the moment. And again, it's just like an iterative thing as you're progressing, trying to get beta out after beta out the door. I think there's going to be much more interest in NTSC. That's where the bulk of the interest is going to be. So I agree. Focus on that one first. But then I was using the adapter from Antonio Valena the other day, and his prototype adapter, which also still needs a lot of work in a bunch of different directions. But when I played a PAL core on my PAL TV here, like, wow, composite looked good. Like, really effing good. So... there's fine tuning to be done.
I just broke my my composite cable, so good thing I have a spare. The pins all just smushed together. All right, RetroBit. Hopefully you don't fail us with this.
I feel, at the moment, this is evolving so quickly. Mike's still working on the MiSTer cores. The adapter design is still evolving. It's kind of mostly locked down, but it's still a little bit in progress as well. I think we will get there. We will get to the stage where it's just like, here's the cheap adapter, plug it into your MiSTer, and it's composite. Or people then take that the next stage, and I dare say some MiSTer creators will incorporate this directly into an I/O board. I think we're getting there. We're going to get to that stage. This S-Video and Composite stuff just seems confusing because we're in the middle of development right now.
So here's from the Nomad. You see the white screen right there and everything else. And
it looks a bit, the camera needs a bit, but it looks really white, like really bright and really white.
Good enough then for this experiment. So we're going to unplug this. That's MiSTer Direct, or that is the mic adapter. So you see how all the way over here it's much different?
Okay. Yep. Definitely see that difference.
So then it's definitely not the monitor. Let me switch back. Just
sure. So now you've got that, Steve. Can you play with phase and chroma right now on the TV?
Yeah. Here is chroma.
But like on the front. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's phase. So it doesn't change this bar. And once again, here it is with the here it is directly from a Nomad.
Right. Are phase and chroma on the front of your PVM, both of them?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, okay. I'm looking at mine and they're on the front too. Okay, yeah.
There you go. So this is actually, let me show what Sonic looks like composite out of a Nomad just to compare. So as we've been watching this, you could get kind of a sense of what to expect.
It's a good reference test. I agree. Hey, Electron Ash. She's there in the chat. Hey, man.
What's up, Ash? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so all white Sega screen. So this looks just as shitty as every Genesis composite video output I've ever seen. So this is exactly what I would expect. So let me switch over and do the same thing on MiSTer with Mike's adapter.
Okay, is that triple bypassed or anything, that Nomad?
No, that is completely stock. So let's switch over here.
Okay, back to the graying again.
Gray. Yeah. So there's definitely an issue either with my individual model or with like the physical board I have for Mike or something else, but
all right, and that's okay. I mean, they're getting there with this.
Yeah, I mean,
this is not something for distribution just yet anyway.
This stuff doesn't happen overnight, so
absolutely. And just like Antonio Villena sent me a couple of his adapters and the same thing. Some of the modes and the frequencies did work. PAL Composite looked tremendous, but NTSC 32X or Genesis wasn't looking so good. So
I'm gonna try to bend these stupid connectors back real quick before I forget and try to jam it into another Genesis.
Oh, Electron Ash, Crowded House. That's classic Australian stuff. Oh, Crowded House are playing Glastonbury? Dang, that's cool.
Jeez, how the hell did these pins get so bent?
Which pins and what?
So my Genesis composite cable that I had forever, I went to plug it into the Nomad and it wouldn't go in. And I was like, oh, I know what that is. I must have bent a pin or something. And like 4 pins are bent.
Ugh.
That's why I love using the Nomad to test, but I kind of hate it as well. Because like, if I messed up a Genesis 2 I had or something, like a stock one, like I'd be upset. I don't ever want to waste anything, but I could just go buy another one. But like a Nomad, a somewhat working Nomad, not so easy.
Nah, not so good.
Let me double check that this still fits, because I'd be heartbroken if I broke another cable today.
That's just the life of Bob. Breaking cables, doing the work, checking videos. It's a hard life.
Back. We're good. We saved the cable.
All right, we saved the cable.
So, all right, as we're winding this down, well, let's turn to the chat for a while, but we'll do a quick summary. composite or RGB to S-Video is something that you can do. It has varying levels of success, but overall it's something that most people would have a pretty okay time with. The AshenWorks one looked awesome. In fact, all of the converters really looked good. They're not going to be perfect. Now, the Mic S-Video adapter, that can be perfect because you're actually generating that from the core. How much of a difference would it be? I don't know. If you've already got a solution that could output S-Video, I don't know if I would go and change, to be honest with you. But composite's going to be interesting. At the moment, right now, today, the only way to really get composite from all the cores properly is to use the Retro Castle case, and where is it? That dial right there, right above my fingernail. Let me get that in focus. That right there is the variable capacitor that's used to dial in the signal. Right. So you'd have to do that with every core. One setting will usually work for a couple, but it's still something you have to dial in. So that's something pretty interesting. But this has obviously the potential to be the best. It just requires the most amount of work for the devs. Mike has to go through and just absolutely do a shitload of work. So, and even after Mike does all that, it's still up to the MiSTer team to decide as a whole how this is going to affect the project, because it's very, very easy to sling mud. And I'm not talking about you, Mike. I mean, anybody. It's very easy to be like, oh, this is an awesome feature. That's stupid. Why wouldn't the MiSTer team add that? But it's just like the boss at a company. Like, you don't know everything that goes into it. It could be that adding this isn't too hard after Mike did all the work, but then that will affect something else, which will affect something else. It's way more in depth than just adding it. But there is some definite hope in this.
I can be. I think also as well, maybe my theory was also maybe Sorg just doesn't know how many people would be interested in that. Again, if he's a European guy, there's SCART everywhere, where it's just not much of a problem in Europe as it is for you guys in North America. So that's why I was sort of proposing to people that maybe just politely and respectfully somehow let your opinions be known, that maybe there are a lot more people out there who need a good composite signal than maybe we're hearing about right now. Yeah.
Now, a bunch of people were mentioning the Video Custard, the MiSTer multi-system adapter, and I haven't talked to Richard about it. I would like to. Richard seemed pretty freaking awesome. So, but if they're using a chip to do the conversion, it's going to be exactly what we showed here with all the rest. And if they're using any kind of core-related stuff, like they're bouncing off of Mike's cores, then it has the potential to be flawless. Bob, if you want composite-like blending, just force VGA scaling with horizontal and vertical composite pattern. You must have just joined the stream, my friend. That's not at all what we're talking about today.
I don't quite understand, but yes.
Yeah, so they said they're not using core stuff? Okay, so that's probably what they're doing.
I hope that Mike's cores become the standard, and that then, because the idea is Mike's cores become the standard, then that the dongle on the end should be really cheap, really easy. So either you can buy it for $15 or you can put one together yourself pretty easy. Because even the adapter that you had, the MiSTer that you had there, or Antonio's original one, they're like $30-40. Antonio's was €35, so that's $45 by the time it gets up there. So there are options out there today, but they're just more expensive. And we're hoping that if Mike's cores can become a standard, then that's a very, very cheap dongle on the end, or maybe even incorporated into I/O boards or something like that.
So let's try the other one since we're still in S-Video. Ash, wonder if there's a way to just use the color carrier from the cores to drive an external chip. So that is something that I annoyed the ever-living shit out of some of the other MiSTer devs about. And that's what we were talking about earlier when it came down to not all of the cores could generate the pixel clock and the color carrier in true NTSC and PAL format. So we would have to be doing a lot of custom work that Mike's going to be doing anyway So if they were going to take that solution, it might as well have just been going all the way for that. Now, Ash, you're obviously smarter than me, so if I screwed that up, definitely let me know. But that was the one thing that I couldn't understand why, like the analogy I just made, I couldn't understand why they wouldn't just do that. And then when it was explained to me, I was like, oh, yeah, they did already think of that.
So Federico on the stream, are Mike's dongles available? No, they're not right now. And the reason that Mike's dongles isn't out is we're just waiting on the finalization to make final of these designs. So Mike's pretty much got his schematic down, but he's still adjusting the code of the MiSTer cores, and that's still making some effect to the actual physical dongle that's needed. So Antonio Villena over here in Europe, he's also got his own version of the dongles. That's the prototype that I had. And again, Antonio's waiting until everything's locked down, and then we're going to be able to they'll be open source. So hopefully a whole bunch of people will make them, but at least Mike and Antonio will be selling them. I think Mike's selling them, I'm not sure. So unfortunately not. We're kind of showing you stuff that you can't get right now, which I realize gives a little FOMO.
Interesting. I'm going to throw on another one of Mike's cores onto this just to try it because NES wasn't working for me. Oh! I did it again. So a while back, I was messaging with Pork and with Risha about testing his board, the one that we showed earlier, and I was like, "Hey, weird thing. I'm getting Genesis working, but NES just won't work with your board. I'll try taking it apart, but what could it be?" And I'm staring at it, and all of a sudden Risha's like, "Do you have the RAM module plugged in?" I'm like, "Ah!" So yeah, let me get that real quick. What a dork. Actually, somebody just sent a full MiSTer to be given away, which I thought was really, really awesome. So I'm going to borrow that RAM module from that thing. I got to do that giveaway at some point.
Someone sent you a MiSTer with the express purpose of making it a giveaway.
Yeah, they had upgraded because they had the original Pork case and everything else, which still works fine, but they wanted one of the newer ones that looks cooler. So they offered to give me everything except a DE10 that I just need to pack up and get away. Yeah, so Kitrinks, Risha, we tried all that with the spare sync pin while in composite sync. It didn't really work out. So yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is actually really awesome. There is the person who sent this also sent a Saturn USB controller, a PlayStation style one. This is going to be a pretty amazing giveaway. All you need is a DE10.
Cool.
How many people we got in the chat at the moment, or at least on the stream?
What do we got? Wait. What do we got there? 82. 80 something like 80.
Maybe we'll do a giveaway today. Maybe.
Oh, it's enough people for a giveaway.
I was going to say I've always Whatnot, but I don't think I'll be doing those anymore.
What's that called? Whatnot, where you sell everything. Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be doing those anymore. That didn't really go the way I had expected, let's just say.
That's interesting. How so? I have to admit I didn't watch them, but so if I understand, so Whatnot is this platform. So if you're already a well-known influencer or creator or whatever, then you can bring your people there and run like a live auction. Is that the format, Bob?
Yes, and every stream I've done, I've had absolutely amazing people in the chat hanging out. I'm not saying that to kiss ass. I'm not a nice person. If a bunch of assholes showed up, I would have just said that. But no, every time it was great. Everybody was awesome to hang out with. I've been very, very lucky, but I have also jumped on other people's streams where I got treated like absolute garbage, and I have no idea why. I don't, like, are they just assholes? Did I ask the wrong question? I don't really get it, but... so I had bad luck there, and I had a couple of things happen where I was supposed to do promotions with them that I haven't really decided. I haven't decided if I got screwed over or if I accidentally screwed them over. I think that could be interpreted a couple of ways, but let's just say it's not how I expected this to end. So
okay. So your individual streams that you did on your RGB Bob channel there, that worked okay, but it's sort of the platform you have more doubts about.
The platform, because exactly like YouTube, Twitch, anything, it all comes down to the people that you follow. So there's some awesome people on there that one or two I've gotten to know, and that's very cool. But if you jump in, how are you going to get to know who's who? What if you just want to buy something? Like, it's a lot more of a community-based thing than anything else, which is awesome. But it's also like, if you're just looking, like I've been into vinyl recently. So if you're just into buying a record, you have to find somebody's stream who has all of it. It's kind of a bit of a frustration sometimes. So I liked it, but yeah, it didn't really go down at all the way I expected. I didn't appreciate it.
It seemed to be a platform, if you already had a viewership, if you could bring people in, then it was okay for that purpose.
Well, I mean, I've talked very openly, so I'm not airing dirty laundry. I've talked very openly about this, where my goal for Whatnot was to work with everybody. So I bring awesome creators from Retro into Whatnot's platform, and my hope was a whole bunch of Whatnot viewers would be like, what the hell is that? Oh, that's cool. It's, and vice versa, right? So we kind of all help each other. So I'm not a seller. I have sold, obviously, but that's not my goal. I'm not doing bi-weekly streams. I'm not going to Goodwills and reselling. So in order for me to be successful, I would have to rely on other people on Whatnot to do cross-promotion, which nobody wanted to. One person legit went, that was their response to me when I said, hey, do you want to work on a cross-promotion with me? I'll, jump on my stream. So I don't know what that was all about. And their team, I didn't feel that they held up their end of the bargain. They did. So it's probably on me. So I don't be doing those anymore. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort.
Would a goal of Whatnot really just be like to put it in, to flog your crap, right? To sell your stuff? Is that your goal, or what was your goal of Whatnot then?
My two goals were, number one, clear out all of the extra stuff that I had laying around, which I still have a bunch left, so maybe I will
sell your
back
crap
on.
Which you can do. You can bring people, and it just is a convenient platform for you to sell your stuff together.
Right. And also, when I'm selling these things, I could look directly in the camera and be like, this is a RetroBit Genesis cable. This is not original from Sega. Please understand what you're... So everybody that bought from me understood exactly what they were getting, no matter how weird or out there it was. So that's a huge bonus. But my other much bigger goal in that was to cross-promote and bring my audience to a bunch of great Whatnot sellers, which I couldn't find very many of, and also use the people who joined Whatnot to just buy stuff to introduce to all of the cool things that indie makers in the retro community did. So I really thought that was a huge untapped market, but I can't do that alone, and the sellers didn't want to help, which is weird, because if they took 1 second, they'd realize I'm not stealing their sales. I have no bearing on their sales other than to bring them people. So it was very disappointing how it all
I guess that community bit is hard, because I didn't understand there was that community aspect to it. I just thought, hey, if I'm a creator and I've got enough fans I can bring in, then this is a place where I could sell my stuff, which that bit, okay, you got rid of your stuff, you sold some things, but then I guess if you're not building a community and you run out of stuff, then you don't really have much of a need to use Whatnot on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. Carsey, Whatnot is like an online flea market. Exactly. It's like, imagine if on Twitch you could list a product and then start a countdown and people could bid on that product, but you're still live streaming the entire time. Also, Carsey, I have a gift for you. You missed it earlier, but here is your MiSTer MD2 adapter. You just need a regular I/O board. You cannot use it with the direct video, which I don't think you're using anyway. So yeah, that's yours, buddy. That's the one I was talking about before. So I'll send that over soon. All right. So anything else for us to go over before?
What else there was? Thor from Sweden. What is SED? What's a SED TV?
Those are TVs that were released in the mid-2000s in beta only. They were only ever at trade shows, and the best way to describe them was each individual pixel was like its own CRT, pretty much. And it was a combination of Canon and Toshiba, I believe. and they had started building a billion-dollar facility in Japan to start manufacturing them. And then they found out that that actually violated some NDA, so they had to cancel the whole project. But I was lucky enough to see one of those at CES. And it was this crazy demo where there was like a whole bunch of LCD and plasma panels on stage. And you could, like, as soon as they turned down the lights, you could see the glow of the backlights, which was kind of funny. And then they showed footage, and the footage was a camera panning down onto a well-lit red rose. So when I say well-lit, you could really only see the rose, but the black background. And as they're panning the camera down, you know, they turn the lights off, the curtain comes up, you see the glow of all the shitty LCDs, and this rose appears out of nowhere in the middle of the room. And that's when you realized the SED TV was in the middle, all of the other pixels were off, much like OLED, and it only illuminated the rose when it needed to. And it was their demo showing resolution and the black levels, and it was only a 720p demo, and it destroyed every 1080p TV there. It was also the same year they launched OLED, but they only had it in an 11-inch screen on a Sony panel. So SED, yeah, it's that could have been absolutely amazing, but in order to make it worthwhile, they would have had to built the billion-dollar facility and made them in bulk. So that kind of fell off. But
SED was a CRT tube-based technology or flat technology?
No, it was flat panel, but
flat panel.
Almost as if each pixel was its own cathode ray tube. It's an oversimplification. It's also how they described it, so I'm not just making this shit up. But I bet you if you really looked into it, there'd be a lot more technical details on it. But it's a completely stalled and dead technology. 15 plus years it's been away. But anybody who was at that CES could tell you that Rose demo, like the whole room, like you actually heard gasps. Like everybody was kind of laughing at first, like what are they demoing? Stupid ass flat panels, and then that was pretty incredible.
Whew.
So you know what? Everybody here was awesome and patient. I don't know how to do a giveaway on YouTube. Do we try it now or do we try something else? Anybody in the chat, are you on Whatnot? I'll jump over to Whatnot now and start a stream just to do this giveaway and take off. That's fine. It's, whatever else. If not, I will figure out a way to do this with another MiSTer related thing because I have a bunch of MiSTer related stuff coming up. Contrast. Also looking for a way to convert HDMI 480p to 480i. No, I haven't really really figured out that as well. Is EU okay? You know what? Pegascape? I'm so sorry.
Deep Pegascape.
This is a large box. I want to make sure my address I wasn't just putting my address on. I already got doxxed once a couple years ago. I don't want to do that again. This is kind of a larger box, so you know what? I don't want to do the giveaway until I figure this out because I would have to do like a flat rate international box, and that way I'm not doing a giveaway and then spending $100 to ship it. So. Yeah, Sterling, one of these days, maybe you jump on stream with me and we'll do the VSC 500, the Extron converter, and we'll do exactly what we did today and just mess around and do it.
Oh, yeah, do that. I have one of those as well. Sure, they're cool.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now we have plans for a follow-up stream at some point in the future.
All right, there we go. I get my VSC out and I can play with it at the same time and do that. Okay, cool idea.
So does anybody have any more questions about this? Basically, if you want S-Video, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. If you want composite, the Retro Castle is the best at the moment, but you have to tweak each individual core with that variable capacitor. And the mic S adapters are looking like the potential for the best S-Video and composite output, but Mike's put a ridiculous amount of work into it and probably has a bit of ways to go, so zero pressure there. But it's just something that you need to plan on in the future.
Sure. So I guess what I'll do as well is just a quick plug for the previous video that I made. That if you're in the chat right now and you're like, how do I get this S-Video? How do I get this composite going? Like right now, this day, we just said everything's in flux. The designs are still changing. Go to ZezRetro. Check out my previous video about the S-Video adapter because I show the options about how you can build these cables today. So if you get Mike's YC cores, you might have these cables, or it's something maybe that you can get from your local electronics store. So before Mike gets a nice, pretty adapter that you could just plug in before Antonio does that, check out my video, and it may help you construct your own cable that you can get going quickly and cheaply.
What's my opinion of Jam's SCART to S-Video adapter, the Linux Bot 3000? I bet you if I dug around, I would find that. And I bet you it's going to perform exactly the same as the rest. But you know what? Give me 1 second. You know what?
Give me a second. Have a look.
It took 40 minutes to set this shit up, so let me see if I have it.
I mean, it can't do, how to say, we understand the physical limitations of externally converting RGBS to S-Video. So it's not going to be suddenly, no device is going to be suddenly, haha, this is amazing, no external device. But we saw a little bit like AshenWorks 1 did really, really well. I think the Linux Box 3000 one does really, really well as well, but maybe we'll see in Bob's pile of shame there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. It's going to take me a minute to go through it all.
Is that a projector screen behind you, Bob?
I owned that adapter. Damn it! I wonder if whoever borrowed that also borrowed my Game Boy Advance EverDrive. That thing's still missing. Oh man. Okay. As you can imagine, I have to move a CRT out of the way to get to another box back here.
Things just expand. For a while, when you're in New York, Bob, it was moving, everything was efficient. And now you've got all this room. I've got a whole house to do these things. But things expand to take up this room. You're moving things. I'm starting to get those shades of New York feeling again already.
Yeah. I had so much stuff in here I was supposed to test. A PAL to NTSC converter. Does that add lag?
Oh, right. Okay. I have one of those cheap AliExpress ones as well. Again, maybe I should. I had to hand back my Time Sleuth to Vlad. I'll get it back from him.
God, this is a HV. This is like a centering device. Oh man, I was supposed to test that a year ago. What else we got? I have SCART cables, a fan, a random fan. I don't know where the hell that came from. This is hysterical. There's a lot of stuff in here. Screws for a Sega Genesis. Guarantee I looked for those a whole bunch of times. Speaking of a Sega Genesis.
Oh, the cover that goes over the top,
No, it's
right?
just a bag.
It's a bag. Okay. Oh, you'd be a cool dude walking down the street in that one.
I brought that a lot of places with me because I really don't give a shit if I look stupid.
Here comes Cool Bob with these Sega Genesis bags.
I don't think anybody in my entire life has ever said the words, "Here comes Cool Bob." I think it's way more likely for people to be like, that guy again?
This fucking guy.
I'm so disappointed. When I was in New York, when you saw me standing there to my left on the windowsill, I always had a pile of tinks, and I had that adapter, that Linux Bot 3000 adapter.
God.
I wonder what the hell happened. Well,
actually, while we're here, maybe the people on the scene, I've got Antonio Villena's 2 adapters here. So this is the original Antonio Villena adapter, and this takes the RGBS, and this will do, again, as good as AshenWorks, or maybe, I don't know, as good as it, as good as any of them, right?
Yeah.
This one will do the job, and this was his prototype cheapo, so you can see he's used the same form factor. I guess he wants to use the same, like, 3D print and so forth, and everything else looks the same. And the only thing he made different was that he made the switch, as you can see here, the switch on the side is vertical instead of horizontal, just to make the difference. So the idea is the original one, the OG one that does RGBS, that's 35 euros, where the one that will work with Mike's cores, this is going to be 15 euros. So much cheaper, and maybe they'll even be cheaper again. Look, everything in Europe costs a lot of money these days, so I don't know. It's hard to talk about prices and what's cheap and so forth. So that's going to be Antonio's version when he comes out. And I guess I just speak about Antonio because he's in Europe, so he can get his stuff to me very easily, where Mike is still trying to get one of his adapters to me, but he's got to go from Canada to Estonia, and there's money, and Canadian Post costs a lot of money and so forth. So that's why I'm able to sort of keep up on Antonio's stuff a little bit easier.
Yeah, I see both Ash and Mike are in the chat. You guys should definitely talk. Ash has been a massive help to a lot of the projects I've been on. So thank you, Ash. Thank you for being patient too. I ask Ash a lot of questions. So, well, I mean, I guess this basically sums it up. I guess I have to figure out. I guess I have to figure out how to put this into a post. But I think I'm going to just basically link to this, and then kind of do a written summary, and maybe just dump a zip file with all of the captures. The only problem I have with that is like I don't want to put a capture in of something that in the context of this video performed incredibly well. But if you're just like, oh, here's a composite video capture for the upcoming pork prototype, it's like, that's not fair. It's not at all. Like, if somebody looks at that, they're going to complain. But
are you getting a little paranoid after doing that last video where everyone analyzed the shit out of your 4K scaler, whatever, link pictures?
No, I've always been paranoid about representing developers correctly. And the only big mistake I ever made was luckily just with a hypershit console. But I said that the composite video port outputted 480i instead of 240p, which was wrong. It did actually output 240p. And even though it was Hyperkin, and I still think it's an overpriced total piece of shit, the NES clone console thingy, it gutted me. Like, no, I only want to represent people fairly. Young from Intech Gaming, dragged him under the bus, but he deserved all of it because we've had these conversations before, and he just doesn't care or doesn't understand and doesn't care that he doesn't understand. But Pork's a good dude. I don't want to, I don't want to drag a prototype through the mud that works absolutely perfectly the way he described it. And oh, by the way, when Bob tried to make it do something else, it didn't work that well. So that's not fair at all. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I'm good on everybody. But yeah, in that last video, most people were nice to me. I just, it bothered me that I screwed it up. And most of the people, there really weren't any complaints. They were just people who misinterpreted my results, which is my fault, 100%. So yeah, I definitely, that one sat with me for a while, but
I think that that the thing that you said about will a creator listen to feedback and will they adapt to that? So there was a question posted in the chat about Antonio Valena and the cheapo one. So the kind of truth of the story is that Antonio did put the cheapo adapter out there for sale for a few people. And he got that out the door really quickly, which is not so bad necessarily. But then it was found that the cheapo adapter that had some flaws in it because things are still being worked on. And so Antonio immediately took it off sale. He's now said he's going to be taking the next couple of months to work on the design to make sure it's solid. And he told me personally that he sold them to about 3 people or so. And when he finalizes the design, he's going to be sending them new ones for free. So there's an example there of like he's listening, right? Like not everyone gets it right. People can make mistakes. People are working on things. They have a lot of different influences in their life, but it's about how do they deal with their error. So I'm happy that Antonio is taking some time now to make sure he gets it rock solid. And I know Mike's adapter is going to be great. I kind of think of Mike's adapter as like the reference design here. Like he's the creator of these cores. His eventual design, his eventual open source circuit is going to be the reference design that I think others will then take and adapt in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough though, because how far do we expect Mike to take all of this stuff through these adapters, right? So like we just showed S-Video through the AshenWorks that looked pretty damn good. Now it was on the Genesis core, so maybe if we tried every single core, some would look amazing and some would look meh. But and then you throw Mike's in there and it looked really, really good. But at what point, do you stop? At what point does somebody go, well, actually, this one looks better than that one, and you need to adjust that? And how far do you really go for all of this stuff? And I think maybe a really good way to do this would be to have something like the AshenWorks adapter, but RGB S-Video and Composite out, like I talked about before, but with the variable capacitor on there, even with the knob, so you don't even need a screwdriver, would be nice. And that way you can just eyeball it. You don't even really need a test pattern. You could just start playing your game and twist it until it stops wiggling, and you're good to go. So that. Might
and I know Mike has some concerns as well. Like Mike's just the guy, right? He's just the guy like you and me. He's trying to build some stuff. So I know, for example, Mike doesn't even have a PVM to test on. So it sounds like, look at Bob's CRT wall behind. So as I understand, Steve from RetroTech is doing his best to see if he could scrounge up something. But even if he could, Mike's in Canada and Steve is in the United States. So there's an export issue there. Are you going to post it? Oh my God, the postage across borders can be an issue.
Yeah, Mike, I could send you an 8-inch PVM. Shipping won't be too bad. We just got to figure it out because I could get it in a decent box. So that might just be the easiest. So
that might be something because I think Mike really needs a PVM. So I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah.
But then
in fact, on top of that, I got to give a shout out for this one. Forgotten Freshness up in the Albany-ish area. Jeremy, John, and Frank, awesome people, and Jeremy donated a couple of 8-inch PVMs for this exact reason. He said, "Do you need any?" And I said, "I actually have a bunch of really good ones, but I know people that do need them." So that's the exact purpose of this. So I'll pay shipping out of pocket as long as we could make sure that he's not going to get hit with e-waste charges, because some countries, if you ship a CRT, it's considered e-waste now. Or if they're going to try to charge import fees as if it was originally a $5,000 monitor. So we got to double check. But yeah, thanks to Jeremy and John and Forgotten Freshness, I would love to redonate one of those to the cause from them. So yeah, absolutely. And I got a box to do it too. I got a nice big ass box that would be perfect, and a bunch of bubble wrap. Actually, that's the one thing I'll say about Whatnot is if you ever wanted proof that I know how to ship something, ask the person who got this projector from me from Whatnot. That thing, you could have thrown that down a flight of stairs that would have survived. So.
The PVM would be really great for Mike as well, because not only is it good for him to test on such a device, but his consumer sets are only NTSC, and a whole other factor in all of this is that extra tuning still needs to be done for PAL, and without a PAL screen. Now, I think Mike could probably use the PAL core, and then it'd probably work, and then he could do some adjustment on his NTSC, but it shows PAL anyway. But if you had a PVM, that would deal with the signal better, and he could make those adjustments. And again, this is still so much work for Mike. He's a regular dude. He's working a job and just doing this in his evenings trying to get by. And now he's got tens and tens of cores that all need this adjustment on PAL and on NTSC. God, this guy's doing a great job.
Yeah, good point. And I will say that in all of my testing with this stuff, you can't absolutely use just a CRT or just a RetroTink. You have to reference both an analog and digital solution. You saw a bit of that today, in which it sort of looked okay with the correction of the Tink, but it looked weird on the PVM where that red bar was flickering in one point. Like, you absolutely need both. And also, while an 8-inch PVM would completely and totally do what we need to do, the smaller the CRT, the harder it is to see some of the differences.
Yeah,
which is yet another reason why you want the digital too. So
that's a good point. All right, I'm good. I've said my bit.
Me too. Thank you so much to everybody who hung on and stuck with this. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. They're going to be just as drawn out and boring as this one, because I just figured if I'm doing this all day anyway, I might as well share it with everybody. And there are a few people that enjoy the process. And for those who don't, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This is a fucking blast always hanging out.
This is fun, man. Anytime you got something, I'm hanging out here. So I'm happy to come on your streams. And yeah, thanks for everyone being in the chat. Really nice to see this. Yeah, there's not this urgency of like, do something now, entertain us, Retro Man. Yeah. But no, we just want to watch you doing your thing. So thanks, Bob.
Absolutely. We'll probably follow up with an Extron stream at some point, but make sure to please subscribe to ZezRetro. We need more subs over there because that's an awesome channel. Yes. And yeah, everything's linked in the description. So thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.